Hey folks, what's going on? It's Tim at Doc's Autos, and we are playing another game of What Are We Fixing on the Ford? Coming up next. Alrighty folks, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, please hit that subscribe button below. Check out our other pages over on Facebook, Instagram. We've got a bunch of new merchandise over on our Teespring account, and of course Patreon. So today we are looking at the pickup. I've had a little bit of a hum, acceleration and deceleration for a while, and it just sort of is becoming an annoyance now, and I'd like to get it taken care of. And I'm thinking what the issue is two things. One for sure, second hopefully, and I hope it doesn't go to a third, because the third one's not going to be fun to replace. What I believe the main issue here is, with 140,000 miles, is the carrier bearing on the drive shaft. Now this should spin freely. Hold on here. Now this should spin freely under most circumstances, and it does. But you should not be able to do this with it and twist it all around. If you can look, these little fingers that hold this bearing together are in the shadow. Always are cracked. You can see they're broken here, and I believe that's contributing to the hum. Also, I'm going to replace the U-joints as long as we're here. It doesn't make sense to just do this if I'm going to have to do the rest of these eventually anyways. And overall, they're not too bad, but this one back here is a little crunchy. And it's pretty... You can even see down in here, this is damaged and coming apart. So I believe also this is contributing to hum. Not sure if you could hear it in the microphone, but I could clearly hear it vibrating up through the drive shaft as I was moving that U-joint. So we're gonna go ahead and take those out. Middle one's not too bad. Front one also is passable, but you know what? For the small expense they are, compared to having to redo them all and take everything out again, I'll just do that. Pretty smooth. I think it's the rear one is the most impacted, or it gets hit with all the rain and goop and salt and whatnot. You can see my carrier bracket itself had to use a little sparkler spinny thing, the angle grinder, to get it off, because the nuts and bolts were froze on, so I'll have to grind those off too. But just gotta get these parts off. We'll get them up to the parts store and come back with new ones. So we'll go ahead and see if we can't take these U-joints off. Actually never done that before, so we'll see how much of a pain it is. I guess it's supposed to be pretty easy, but depending on how rusted things are, it probably is gonna make a whole lot of difference. Let's give it a shot. All right, so what we've got here is these clips on all four sides that come out. So we pull these out, and then we're gonna take set it back on the ground, and then set it supported on the sides here, then take a socket or something large, set on here, and give it a good old whack. And that should let it press through. I've got some penetrant on there. Chances are I'm gonna need to let it sit for a little while longer before those will pan out. But go ahead and start taking off these clips and go from there. Yeah, it's out. Alrighty, well, I'm not gonna punish you with watching the rest of that. And you may ask why I didn't show you taking it out earlier. Well, I started to take stuff off down in the shop in the dirt. That got frustrating. And then two of the nuts for the carrier bearing didn't want to cooperate. And at that point, I figured there's about to be some new demonic language invented, and I really didn't care to subject you all to that. So we'll go ahead and get this taken apart and come back when we get this carrier bearing off. Hopefully that's going to be easier than the rest of the stuff here. This is supposed to just tap off. We'll see if, it's as easy as it's supposed to be. Anyways, alrighty gang, well, we're back. We've got one of the three U-joints beat out of the drive shaft, and here is the one end. This end mates up against the transfer case in the front of the vehicle, and here's the old one that came out. Doesn't look bad from the outside other than being a little crusty, but this one here is pretty gritty. Not so much there. That one you can kind of hear. That one's not so bad, but one of these had a actually wear lines in here. Not this one, but probably I think it was this one here, had some wear lines from where the needle bearings were sitting. And I think that was probably my issue back here, partly. So now we'll take our new one, take end caps off, slide it in, caps back on, pins, clips back in, and go repeat that on the drive shaft side. Then it'll be one, I guess I'll call it 1/4 of the way there, because I still have to work on that, that bearing. Now, as I showed you earlier, this guy here, a lot of flex. I'll just kind of come off, but see a lot of flex and torn. Just not very nice. We go over to our new bearing here, and there's really no flex or play in here. All these little joints are connected, so that's a bonus. And just a whole new bearing. So we'll go ahead and get this new U-joint in there, and then keep on moving, I guess. I think I'm going to try and take a little bit of 400 and just clean out the insides of these a little bit to make putting in these new caps a little easier. I guess for where these ring clips go in, I don't have a whole lot other than my picks wherever that went. I guarantee you those aren't in the shop, but I don't know where they are. Here's one. Hey, this will work. See if I can clean these tracks out a little bit. Help get these new clip seated in place. Nope. Let's see if I can set this in my vise here to pinch it in. There we go. We're not pinched. Now I can go back to my my floor and my steel, tap these in, and set those clips in. Now if you had a press, this would be a lot easier, but for now I've got a 19 mil socket and my tiny hammer. If you're wearing headphones, heads up. All right, I'm gonna go put a clip back in this side, and we can hammer down from this side and get it the rest of the way in. Just like that. They went in a lot easier than they came out. All right, now I'll go bang this one in a little more, and we'll come back and put in our clip. We'll give them a little more of a tap to seat in there, and then it'll be good. There we go. Our clips are in. At least this half anyway, so we've got this other half to do on the drive shaft. And then we've got 2 more U-joints to do, and then we can get to the bearing, the main event. So I'm going to go ahead and get the other 5 joints done, and we'll come back before we put in that carrier bearing. Alrighty, well, if you look down here in my mess of stuff, we got 1 of the 3 all put back together. Everything fits in there like it should. I've started working on the mid one here, but the fun part is the carrier bearing, you know, it just doesn't want to come off. I tried to use my giant Harbor Freight Jaws of Life hydraulic puller, and it was actually too big for this job. So I pretty much had to get the little sparkler grinder thing and just start whacking away at the bearing and cut it off with the drive shaft. And hopefully I'll be able to split it off and put our new one on. So that is our progress on this. I got most of it off, just kind of the inner section of the bearing to cut off, and be careful so I don't go into the drive shaft and make a mess out of that. So once we get that done, we can put the new carrier bearing on, put our intermediate U-joint back in, and only have the last one down here by the rear end. Here's that intermediate end. Everything is nice and new and smooth. No issues there. And these are greasables too, so going forward I'll be able to maintain these a little bit better and be good to go there. Alrighty, we're back here the next day. I kind of got frustrated and fed up yesterday working on this stuff. The old carrier bearing for the first section of the drive shaft was not coming off. As you saw in the other video earlier, I was just hacking away at it. Ended up grinding through it with the Dremel and nicked the shaft a little bit with the big grinder, so I went a little more delicate today and got that off. And you know, I can't tell, this little ring appears to be part of the drive shaft itself and not come off, so I'm going to leave him here. But I got the little rusty edge ground down, smoothed out, so the new carrier bearing will fit over here. So my big question is, I've got this extra housing on the end of here which does not fit if it goes up against here, and it's not going to affect anything if I put it on the outside here. So that's my plan. Mount it back on here, press it on, and then get the other part of the knuckle put in, or the U-joint, and then start putting her back together. I have made quite the mess out of the workbench here too, haven't I? Got old receivers, new projects, top secret. So let's see if we can get this bearing pressed on. We are butted up against the back of there. Nice. Free spins, no noise, no grit, no grime. Now, find the other half of my drive shaft and put this end of the U-joint in that, and then we'll have only one left to do. Actually, I think I'm going to do the long section, do that right now before I put everything back together, and it's this giant long 9-foot snake. So let's get to that one. Alrighty. Well, I think this is going to be one of my main culprits right here. If you take a look at this U-joint, completely dry inside, and I don't even see any of the little things. Look at the other cap. Oh. If you look in this cap, you can still see all the little needle bearings in there. And this one has none. It's actually cracked a little bit. You can see all the slop there. I mean, that was not doing its job. Compared to this one here, and you can still see had some grease in here, whereas the other one here was completely dry. So go ahead and bang this one out. Let's see, there you go. You can see I had a couple of these where the ring clips broke off as I was trying to extract them. And yeah, that one's got a little piece left in it too. So before I take this out, I've got to go ahead and dig this little piece of clip out. And then hopefully I'll be able to pound it out. Maybe I'll just try and bang it out as is. Let's see. Basically all I've got here is a small socket, deep socket that I set in here and just whack. Alrighty, well, I've got the drive shaft assembled again, and I think having to do it again, it's one of those projects where you go out to Harbor Freight and buy a bearing press first, just because it's a lot easier, I think, to get stuff in and out versus beating on it with a hammer and a socket. Worked pretty well, but I think it could have gone a lot easier and smoother and quieter with a press. But you can see I've got everything here set up again. I've got the two sections joined again here with my handy dandy zip ties. I'm not sure where my shark bite tool went, so that's going to work for now. And I have the carrier bearing bolts were frozen underneath. Oh, so I've just gone ahead and ground those suckers off. That's what it was. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it back up with some basic hardware and some blue Loctite for a couple days, and get the right nut and bolt fittings from the Ford place. You know, pickup's not going very far, so I'm not terribly concerned about it. So what I'm going to do now is bring the drive shaft under here, get the front bolts mated up to the transfer case, hang the carrier bearing, and with all luck, everything should line up for the rear differential way back under there, under the fuel tank. There we go. Should mate up there with the differential. Now I did pull the truck in, or push the truck in about 2 feet last night, so I'm sure I'm going to have alignment issues getting that drive shaft lined up to the differential, so that's going to be even the more fun. And just looking under here, wonderful. Gotta love what Minnesota winters do to vehicles. Oh, one of the bed rails is not looking terribly great. That just looks wonderful. That side's not too bad. Front is not too good. The other rails seem fine though, so that's promising, especially for the B&W hitch. That's on there solid. Probably a side project here this year is going to be just hitting the underside of the pickup here with some rust encapsulator. I can't stop it or fix it now, but I can try and slow it down. So we'll go throw some of that stuff on there, give the underneath here a real good cleaning, and just try and slow the process down a little bit. But for the important thing, let's try and get that drive shaft under here and see what we can get lined back up. Here's the bolts that came out of the connections between the differential and the drive shaft. And I took the front ones already and cleaned them up with a wire wheel on my drill. So hopefully this is going to be a little easier to put back in. And I am going to hit them with some of the blue thread lock because in case I ever do need to take this out again, I'll have an easier time. So let's grab that drive shaft and see what we can do. All right, try this again. All right, I got one started. Now I can hit the others with a Loctite. Wherever they went, here they go. Hold that upright. You know, there's parts where this part may be a little easier to do with the lift. Alrighty, well, we're back and we're going to see if we can get this carrier bracket hooked up. Try and find a better place to put you. Because I know I'm going to run into you wherever you are, so just deal with that. All right, I got one up here now. Let me get the other one hung up. I'll move on to the back. Alrighty, folks, we're back. Hopefully we're gonna crawl under here for the last time. So, oof, what I've done already, what I did to get these lined up is I just, since the rear end was not hooked up to anything, I just rolled the vehicle forward looking in from the wheel well till I could see this lined up. I got one started, got the other ones lined up, and hopefully we'll put some thread lock on here. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these up. Back in a minute. Alrighty, folks, we got those last 4 bolts tightened up on the drive shaft of the rear differential, and I don't have those couple of proper bolts, nuts and bolts for the carrier bearing, attach that to the frame, so I really can't go for a test drive. Those couple of bolts I put on there now just to get it out of the shop, or get it out of the garage down to the shop so we can get cars back here in the garage. But that is going to wrap this video up. One of those things where I figured, you know, I'll start it on, you know, Sunday. Nice project. It's one of those things I'm glad I started on Saturday because it took way too long for a relatively simple task. Now, looking around on the internet for how-tos and stuff and figuring out, you know, basic things like knocking those U-joints out, most of the examples I found, the U-joints actually had back straps on them with nuts or bolts that came out. I didn't find a lot of reference to my drive shaft. It's a Spicer drive shaft. You had to actually pound out or press out those U-joints. So a little bit of extra work here, I think, but hopefully that takes care of that hum in the drive line. If not, I'm kind of at a loss, and I really don't want to dig into that pinion bearing. So anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you found this somewhat informational, or at least learned, hey, have somebody else do it instead. Don't forget to hit subscribe below. Check out our new content, Facebook, Instagram, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.